Whoa, 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 whoa. Welcome, everyone, to a Mere Mortals Meanderings session.
Welcome
My
back.
name is Kyron.
Juan, over here,
Juan
in the other corner.
And we're in a different place. We got kicked out of our normal
We
one.
did indeed.
We don't have the correct permits, Juan.
We are mere mortals, folks. We are mere mortals.
Yeah, I'll give a story on that after I've introduced the session. This is a more fun, as the name suggests, meanderings. We'll take a different path. We'll go where the conversation leads us.
That's right.
I've got a couple of topics to talk about. Bitcoin people, some
Bitcoin people,
casino gambling, and I suppose why we got kicked out. The story related to that.
Yeah, okay. And I think I'll go a little bit into Dapper Dinos and just some of the crazy processes I also
Dapper
saw
Dinos.
in minting. And yeah, I might keep it there because I think those other three topics will probably fill the rest of the time
cool.
up.
So this was one of the things that when we were originally starting the podcast, I actually looked at.
Okay, so you did actually look at this.
Should we get some permits? Should we do the right thing, the correct thing in a way? And this is where it's like gets to that point of, man, this is just way too difficult. I remember going onto the South Bank website.
Yep.
I remember looking up these things and I was like, oh god, you have to fill out this form, you have to do this thing. Apparently you might need some insurance.
Yeah.
Like, how much is that going to be? Oh, it doesn't tell you the costs.
I do recall you saying this actually, a little bit of the insurance bit, yeah.
So I remember doing all of this and just going like, this is too much.
Yep.
Like, there's too much effort, too much work. I'll come to that bridge, when we need
occurs,
to.
yeah.
Well, the bridge has now occurred. So here we are instead in beautiful, where are we? The QT.
Well, we've got to keep it quiet
The
in case
gardens.
yeah,
that's it.
someone comes to
Yeah,
listen
who
to us and
knows?
finds us.
Who
But no,
knows?
we are in the Botanic Gardens, which
Botanic
I do
Gardens,
believe
that's
it's free for us to be filming here as well. So, but mere mortal lights.
Questionable.
If someone actually knows that we can't, do let us know as well. Let us know as well.
All right. So my main topic today was we've now been to 2 Bitcoin meetups, and we've been talking about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for, probably a solid 3 months now.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked about the people behind it. We haven't talked about like the physicality of it. So
Yeah, no, we have not. We have not.
We went to a Bitcoin meetup 2 weeks ago, and then we went to one recently a couple of days ago.
Yes.
And so I wanted to get your decompressions, your learnings from that, and in particular for me, the one thing that stands out is like these are unusual people, is how I would say it. Crazy, you could even say weird, definitely. But what was really gratifying was I'm not seeing any scammy type of behavior. Like I was expecting going to one of them.
More scammy behavior, yeah.
Well, just any scammy behavior. I don't recall anyone trying to sell me something. I don't recall anyone trying to get me to go onto this thing and being like really persistent about it. Everyone who I've talked to is either a layperson just generally interested in it. So more the investor type, I guess. There's been obviously the people there doing presentations who are showing like, yeah, you can do derivatives with this thing. Our company is doing this. But once again, I haven't had anyone like forcing anything on me, which has been really, really nice.
Yeah, one thing that before we went to those 2 meetups, and I don't know if this is an Australian or Brisbane thing, or if other groups worldwide do act like this in the Bitcoin space, is that there's been 80 to 100 people at these events that we've gone to, and not once has anyone actually really noted the price of the cryptocurrency. Like, no one's been saying, Cardano's at $3.34, Ethereum's at $5,000, Bitcoin's at this money. It's not discussed, and I don't know if that is a symptom of it's been there now, elevated for a long time, or just genuinely people do not care. The fact that it's there. It's almost like there's a lot more of a focus on the Lightning Network, the how do you use cryptocurrency, what do these blocks mean?
Yeah, like what is trust? How hackability? How is this?
And I think it might be just because we are in a time period where that might have been the thing 3 years ago, 4 years ago, when everything was really multiplying, right? Like at the moment we see it to us like 20% up, 20% down. To some of these folks have seen 10,000% up, 15,000% down, like crazy sort of numbers. So maybe now it's not a thing that's getting discussed anymore. So we're in a time period where it's a focus on just the functionality that the cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, blockchain allows, which is cool. I do like that. My other take though is the OG Bitcoin guys. So I've definitely had lots of conversations now with them, and it's fascinating to see how much still a focus is on the technology and what can be done with it. Not, there's no conversation of like, cashed out and did this, or oh yeah, I'm going to be spending my money doing this other thing, or what if it gets to $100,000? Like, there's never been that conversation. It's just purely, oh, we're doing this, we're getting busy doing the work that they're doing because they're working in the NFT space, and everyone just seemed not concerned about the price of things, but more about what they could do with it.
Yeah. I think that's both of those are a testament to, as you said, the OG people. So you had Lucas on here for. Do you remember the conversation number? Yeah, me neither. Anyway, Lucas Cullen, if you type that in. Who are a couple of the other random people? Like, might as well shout out their names if they want to. Well, do they want to be known as?
That's true. I mean, the only other person is, I'll just say like Mikey from DLTX. I mean, the DLTX guys, if you want to just check out who most of those guys are, they're working in a company called DLTX.io here in Brisbane.
Okay.
Right? So, me immortalised it for some, because I've actually gotten questions in the Australian VFriends community being like, oh, do you know someone who works in the NFT space who could help me out in my company with NFTs? Hit those guys up. They'll sort you out and they can help you out if you actually want to venture down that path.
Yeah, for sure.
But no, I think really cool guys, not what I expected at all, and I really hope it's the case everywhere. However, I know that I've recently listened to a podcast with, the name escapes me, but he was on Joe Rogan recently. They were talking about Miami and Florida in particular, and just how crazy it is over there. And
the recent Bitcoin conference they had there.
Not the recent Bitcoin conference, but just around how, I think it was like in the 80s and 90s, it was like the documentary is called like Miami Kings or something like Cocaine Kings, something like Miami, some crazy stuff like that. And just saying like the guy who was a documentarist saying, you know, it's not entirely unreasonable to suggest why, you know, all these people had all that money in the 80s, 90s, and now it's like the Bitcoin hub, because in today's world, probably because they were using that all the way back in 2010 to actually exchange it for illegal drugs or whatever.
Gotcha.
But whatever the case may be, there were some sentiments that they were talking about there that sounded like, wow, Bitcoin like groups in Florida perhaps would sound like, yeah, they'd be like the real people of like, oh, don't you have an Lamborghini SVJ, or don't you have this sort of thing, and yeah, that's what you should be spending it on. So I was like, maybe it's not like that everywhere in the world, but I'm happy that it's like that here.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to relate one story, which just really why I was saying weird and unusual. And so basically the first person I talked to on the first event that we went on to. So this is just meetup.com is how they're organizing this. And yeah, there was a dude who was libertarian, very strongly libertarian.
Very strong.
So for those who don't know, that's essentially like no rules. I don't want anyone being able to tell me what I can and can't do, with some limits regarding, you know, you being able to hurt other people. Like, I can't hurt other people just because I don't want no rules, that sort of thing.
Gotcha.
But he was telling me how it was after September 11th, so post 2001. He was getting fed up with all the new airport rules, and so to test it, he bought a gun in an undisclosed location. I think it was like somewhere in Europe. Brought it into Australia, and he was telling me all these techniques of how he was like hiding behind a group of Chinese people who was like, oh yeah, for sure they're going to get pulled up for having some wood or some other bullshit in their suitcases. So he purposefully like lined up behind them, went through, had his gun disassembled, brought it into Australia, got it in, and then was like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. So then just threw it in Sydney Harbour, because he didn't actually want the gun for any purpose.
He just wanted to like test it against
to break the rules. Yeah. So I think that was a good indication of the type of people. It was like just everyone is like a little bit got something going on, I reckon.
And this is where, look, if you were in Bitcoin and in cryptocurrency early, I'm talking 2011, 2012, you didn't get in there because of the money. Like, you didn't know that it was going to skyrocket.
Yeah, of course.
You got in there for other reasons, but one of the characteristics of you, if you were purchasing around that time, is probably that you didn't like the system, like the centralized system. You wanted something that was decentralized. You wanted to be a little bit unknown. Didn't want people tracking you. I feel like all of them would have some level of that, at least. You know, might not be a super strong libertarian like that, but there will be probably some threads of that where you'd be like, yeah, okay, I can see that in all of them. And like, say with Lucas, he's got some threads like that. He sometimes posts some things on social platforms that I'm a little bit like, oh, okay, I can see that he's pushing back on the, you know, the standard mentality, standard thought that you might see in that libertarian way, but not thankfully not to the extreme. So I didn't interact with this particular individual. So maybe there are some more extreme folks there that we just didn't have a conversation with.
Yeah.
I'm sure there would have been.
Well, he was a funny one for sure. The thing with blockchains and Bitcoin as well is like, fuck man, it's probably the one topic that I've come across in recent years which is just feels bottomless in terms of my knowledge and capability, and then the rapidity of going from me being pretty sure of what I understand to 0%. Like it's just
and going a little bit again and then back to zero.
Super quick. I can tell you about the Lightning Network up to a point, and then you'll ask me like one simple question, and I'll just be like,
it'll open up another chasm of like just what's going on?
Oh god, I have no idea.
Information depth. So okay, this will get a little good transition. So let me tell you what happened with the Dapper Dinos. So we talk a lot about NFTs and a lot of other things. So I won't go too much into depth into what they are, but basically it's an NFT, right, of dinosaurs. Cool. But they were minting, and I was fortunate enough that I was able to get pre-minting, which basically meant I was able to purchase the particular NFTs before they actually went on public sale.
So that might be like pre-IPO or pre...
Kind of, that's the example. So pre-IPO, pre-everybody getting in. Cool. So I purchased 4 of them, of one of them, which I gave to a good friend of mine. Cool. Fantastic. Now, there was no troubles there, but, and I did mention this to you, the way that you actually had to do it, and there was a little bit of a manual process, was they would basically say, how many did you want, in basically a message through the Discord channel, how many do you want? I would say, I want 4. They would give you the address, and you just sent the money there. And you would have to just hope, in trust, that they were going to send him back. Now, they did, right? And I was saying to you, look, there was obviously some trust built up in the fact that these people, I'd heard them talk and, ask me anything style questionnaires. I've interacted with them, messaged them. They seemed cool. I wasn't too worried. Did
they want to screen share with you? And
No. But I was like, let's say, maybe there was a 0.2% doubt, right? Cool. Now, I don't know how they found this out, but there's actually, like, not I wouldn't say well-known hackers, but people know that people are going to hack a particular release. So this one, come the actual public release, it was going to happen in 2 days. And they found out, hey, this group, which I think is called the 721 something, were like, they were going to go and hack their sale. And what that meant was, there was usually a limit of like, you can only buy 10 or 15 or 5 of a particular thing, but they could get around in the contract, just like, I'm not even going to get into it, just very technically, they could mess around with the contract so they could buy 1,000 of them for the money, but they could buy 1,000, then all of a sudden they have like a monopoly, or not a monopoly, but a really large portion of them, and they control a lot of the price, so people don't want that, because that's happened before. So what they decided to do was, it was basically like at the last 10-15 minutes before the public release, they sent them as being like, no, we're about to get like hacked, we do not want to do this to happen. So they delayed the release, and what they did was, okay, you have to send us a message on the Discord channel with a particular way and tell us how many you want, and we're going to limit it to 3, I think they were saying. They was limited to 3 dinosaurs. You have to message us, and it was just going to be a first come, first serve. Like, you message us, you send us the money to a particular address, and like, you might get it, you might not. You have no idea what on the list is. What added to this, though, is like, I'm thankful I didn't partake in this, because I was going to buy more on release, and I was like, dude, this sounds crazy. And then there were so many people, so the channel, Discord channel, went from, they said 7,500 to 8,000 people to 15,000 in about 20 minutes. And there were so many people messaging, it crashed the whole Discord channel, which at the same time, there was bots, and this happens all the time in space, there was bots and other people creating fake Discord channels, sending you messages being like, oh, hey guys, this is the actual Discord channel, send us the money. And people were sending money all over the place to different addresses, and they weren't getting shit.
Yeah.
And so they finally got the thing back and had to put like all these announcements being like, I hope nobody sent all this money, and like there were messages all over the place being like, this was the worst release ever, like I lost all my money, but etc. etc. Now, I kind of looked back at that and went, look, it worked out well for me, but I share in the pain of these other individuals who didn't, because I lost a lot, like a good deal of money in Avastars, as I've talked about in the past. And it just highlighted again to me that there are some complexities, a reminder that money is there to be lost, people with it, but just of how the nuance and the newness of the space as well leads to a lot of people are going to get really polarized views on it. Like, we've heard us talk about it a lot, me and Mortalites, on the podcast, and I think you're going to get either or. You're going to get like this experience where it's like, oh, this was great, or oh man, this was terrible, I never want to do this again.
Yeah. There's I can totally see that. And that's a problem with talking about, and we're maybe guilty ourselves of saying like cryptocurrencies, and maybe we should have been talking more about the blockchain technology rather, because we hardly ever say blockchain, whereas
we're talking crypto, and it is blockchain, and we like it. And I've had a couple of days and a couple of conversations with a few people who maybe understand it less, or just are less in the system. And I still struggle to explain some of the very basic concepts in a way that people can really understand. Like, you ever tried explaining an NFT or even cryptocurrency to someone who doesn't understand? I'll give you actually an interesting one. Just the other day, I was talking to a particular salesperson, and I was talking to them about how I do a podcast with somebody else. And I go past the salesperson. And this individual, now she was, I'm going to say 45 years old. Mm-hmm. She said, "What's a podcast?"
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So she said, "What's a podcast?" And I actually just kind of got taken aback.
To double take,
And I just kind of thought to myself, how do I explain this? How do I explain podcasts to someone who doesn't understand? And then that kind of carried in my mind. It's like, okay, well, imagine trying to explain NFT to someone who just doesn't understand. Or cryptocurrency. Like, we take it for granted that everybody knows Bitcoin. Everybody knows Ethereum. Shit, no. Like, that's still probably maybe only 20% of the population, 30% of the population might know it, maybe more. But to the people who don't know, like, imagine being saying, it's like a digital coin with asset and it's worth, $70,000. Like, what?
Yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
So,
Yep, totally, man.
To do at least 1,000 hours of reviews and effort before you actually dive in.
Yeah, there's
10,000.
And there's a real difference between you understanding it and you being able to communicate it. We've talked about this before,
sure.
and it's I don't think either
miles apart.
Neither of us are particularly teachers in that way, so I don't think either of us is ever going to be able to really nail down.
Well, and that's actually
get it.
Then back to your point, you were saying what are the other interesting things or call outs that we found from the experience of talking to these Bitcoin guys? And one of the main things is, like, these guys were OGs, have been in the system for a long, long time. And they have a company that does this stuff. And even now, they get clients that come up to them to ask, hey, can you do this? And they have to say, no, we actually don't even know about that because that is just too different. Like, it's some other cryptocurrency, it's some other blockchain, or some other technology that they're trying to do. They don't even know. So it's like, if you look at it as a macro level, maybe it might be easy to explain. But when you start just delving a little bit, I'm not even talking 10,000 foot view. I'm talking like satellite view. If you're looking at this as a satellite view, you could be like, oh, Bitcoin started in 2010 and, this unknown guy created it and then it's dealt all these things and it's, impacting the financial system. Okay, then 10,000 foot and 10,000 foot view and down, dude.
Yeah,
you got no hope.
Yeah.
Like, you need to research a lot.
Yeah, well, I mean, essentially, like, imagine trying to explain money to an alien. Like, let's just say there's an alien comes to Earth and you're trying to explain money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where I would begin with trying to do that, even just for the Australian dollar. And that's something, like, I've used my whole life.
Yeah, that's right.
How would you explain how the Australian dollar works?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
We might chat about this topic in Musings. In Musings, whatever the number would be. I have no idea.
Like the one after this?
That's right.
So that'd be 234.
There you go.
I think
234. So if you want to hear more about that.
Yeah, okay, coolies. Well, we're talking about money, so casino gambling. I had some big wins. Big baller wins.
Yeah,
we're talking to who cares about crypto? I'm winning big on the casino money. So my dad likes to go to the casino, and the funny thing with him is he's never gone before. Let's see, this was pretty recent, so in the last couple of years. And he's never been a gambler of any sort. He's always been sort of very analytically minded. And I wanted to get what your thoughts on the general population. So we went to the casino and they're offering and it was an offer of, like, you put one spin on the roulette wheel, so $2.50, i.e., and you get then a wristband and you get entered into a draw to win $500. And they do 3 500, so you have a chance to win $500 3 times. Mm-hmm. And immediately my mind went to what would be there's like an anime or cartoon where it's called Dr. Stone, and the main character Senku, he is just like the super genius dude, and whenever he needs to come up with like calculating like the circumference of the earth through first principles or something, like he puts his fingers to his head and it's like just see numbers rolling across the screen. That's immediately what I did. I was like, okay, how many people need to enter into this for it to like be a good decision for me, i.e. like how can I break the bank? And it's pretty easy. You figure like, oh, okay, if I put $2.50 down, I need to recoup that. How many people need to enter it to make sense for me having like a 1 in X chance to get 500, how many times, etc., etc. So you work it out, and it's like, if there's more than 600 people, then that's breaking even essentially.
Yeah. Okay.
And that was just something I instinctively did. My dad does that when he's at the casino. He's like, yeah, this is how much money I sort of need to put in per year, and I get these perks. Are these perks worth more in value for me monetarily and emotionally than how much money I have to put in? So this is the free drinks, the free parking, you get free hotel stays, things like that. How many people do you think do that? How many people do you think just in the general population they'll see something and it'll be like one of their instincts to go like ding ding like work out the math? Is this going to be worth it for me?
I think very few.
Is this $6,000 purchase of a new PC going to equal some sort of number or reward or type thing, or is it more like the emotions of it? Like
I would have to say the default would be the emotional purchases, and the emotional drivers would be mostly the things that take over most humans. Rational, logical, statistical thinking, I think, would not be the norm for most people. Although, like, I've met a couple of people, especially in the same aspect, where they go, yeah, I'm going to calculate how much I need to be spending here so that I can get these perks, and they work out, and so that's a fair enough sort of trade.
Yeah. I think it, and like, I'm not saying I do this for everything. So if I'm buying a shirt, which is a once in a 2-year event for me, I'm not going to be working out the math and trying to figure out, how much X am I going to get from this. That's more of
we're not saying for like everything.
Yeah.
But we're saying maybe.
But even a big purchase like a house, how many people do you think actually, when they're buying a house, seriously look at the numbers and figure out?
I don't think many. I just don't think many.
That's what I also think as well. I think most of it's just like, I got a real good feeling about this place. Like, this is how I envisioned it when I was a kid. I really like this neighborhood. This neighborhood's got something special about it.
Well, I think it's the barrier as well of the knowledge that you have. So, like, take the example of a house. Let's say Springwood. If you know Springwood, you might go, oh yes, I want to buy a house here because I know bloody ant. House is here because there's a park 100 meters down the road, and I like this area, and I know that that's got good neighbors. I got a good feeling, right? And that's what you know, and so you're comfortable with that, and so you're emotional. That's just emotionally driven. But then maybe perhaps you might go, you start looking at the numbers statistically, or actually go, ooh, that place is getting $430 rent, and this is how much the interest rate would be, and this is the repayment, and this is what it would be the cost, and this is the insurance cost. All these numbers. And it's not to say that general population couldn't calculate them. I think that just gets to a point you're like, oh, that's too much. That's like too much information that I've got to learn here. I'm comfortable to go and do the emotional decision because it just feels right, rather than going down that path. And I think you'd have to be a very particular type of person. Like, I'm assuming like a typical engineer, where you're very breaking things down and want to know the details of it. Okay, I could see you doing that. Maybe there's a couple of other backgrounds and types of people who might do that, especially if you're conscious of the numbers, let's say. But besides that, I think you would go very much emotionally driven and just not calculate what that'll look like. Like, how many people do you think would go and calculate, what's going to be my 10-year return on this particular investment? So, like, say, for me, I've got a calculator spreadsheet which goes, not just what this looks like on a month-to-month basis or a week-to-week basis, but what does this look like? What does this investment look like in 10 years? So that calculates, how much you're getting in terms of rent, how much you're actually getting taken out from interest, or from how much you're paying, plus the calculation of what's the capital growth you're going to experience potentially in 10 years. So it's all these sort of factors into one to give you maybe a medium-term look at what does that investment look like. And how many people do that? I'd say very few.
Yeah.
Very, very few.
Yeah, I think maybe the problem is I was listening to a podcast not too long ago, and it was with Naval and Scott Adams. I think Naval was on Scott Adams' podcast, or whatever the hell it is that Periscope, he uses something weird. And they were talking about, what would be the things that you would teach in school if that was like that.
This was Scott or this was Naval?
Both of them answered this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so Naval was saying, obviously the basics, you need to learn how to read and write. Math would also be good. And Scott Adams sort of disagreed with the math portion, which I found interesting. I was like, well, I would have assumed everyone would just say, you need to know how to learn math. And he was saying, no, I would make math an optional one. That's more for people who like math and want to use it. Yeah, you can have it. And I was just thinking like, shit, he's obviously someone who doesn't care for math himself. He probably wouldn't have said that unless he doesn't. I'm assuming here that he probably doesn't think that much about math. He's more of a creator, i.e. Dilberts and creating things like that.
Yep.
And he's into hypnosis, and so he's definitely more, I would say, a feeling type of person.
Yeah, I think I would disagree with that.
Yeah. I would also say, like, I think you need to be able to use numbers in some sort of sense, but...
Yeah. I think the concepts could be, like, learn the concepts, but it can be more basics. Like, do you need to know the really advanced stuff? Okay, maybe not.
Matrices. I've never used a matrix, and I was learning them in, grade 11? Maybe even grade 10?
Yeah,
and
like inverse for matrix. Like, you might use it. Like, there are pathways where you would use them, or you have to understand the concept of what you're doing and transposing. But are you going to do that in real life? No, you're not. You're not going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I was learning about them in grade 10, and that learning continued 5 years afterwards, well into uni. Yeah, and I've never needed to use them, so it's
like mere mortalites. Like, if there's anyone out there who's still needing to know the derivative of sine and cos, like functions, like you're obviously working in electrical engineering, or something in the space of mathematics, or something else, right? But you're not the general population. Like, that is not what the general population needs to know. So I would say, okay, you don't need to know that, but you need to know, like, primal ways of, like, again, going back to the property, you need to be able to understand at least the basics. Like, you can use a calculator, but, like, what does it mean for capital growth? What does it mean for compounding growth?
Yeah,
what does it mean for all this sort of stuff?
And like, with compounding, it's not even the numbers itself. It's almost like the feeling behind it. Because that's one of the things everyone says, it's so hard to intuitively get that. Let's just take Warren Buffett, because always everyone uses him. In the last couple of years, that's where he made
all of his wealth.
And it's before that, yes, he was wealthy, but he wasn't wealthy.
Yeah,
so
I think that you can still have a look at the graphs, and it's like, couple of million, couple of billion,
boom.
Yeah, boom, and just like skyrockets into like billions plus.
And so that that's not a mathematical understanding for me. Understanding compounding, that's a like a feeling type of thing. Like, you have to just be able to somehow get into your head that you can tick along and then just explode up ridiculously and everything changes. That's not mathematical. That's another concept. I would argue, that's sort of the same with Bitcoin and the blockchain stuff. Like, if I feel the deeper you get into it, the more, like, the less it becomes about the price, the lesser it becomes about the mathematics, and it's, at its core, it's the, becoming sovereign. It's being able to, have trustless. It's so funny because it's like, oh, Bitcoin's about privacy and whatnot, but it's like, it's out there for everyone. Everyone can see anything.
That was actually, and then rolling it all the way back to
individual privacy.
The recent conversations and presentations, the one about Bitcoin. I mean, the big thing I took away was, how obvious it was. You think it's like, oh, well, it's privacy. It's like, no, it's actually not as private as in comparison to a lot of the financial systems currently. So it's not until you dig a little bit into the layers and you go, oh, actually, it's not that. But looking at it from a perspective you don't know, you just go, oh, people just use it to try and hide. No, it's hard to hide. OpenSea example. So someone got found for insider trading in OpenSea, which is where you buy and sell NFTs, because they could see that on the blockchain transactions and on the hash keys, there was some insider who was buying projects like NFT projects just before they got presented on the OpenSea front page. So he knew, like, it's going to get presented on the homepage, so they're going to go up roughly somewhat. So he was getting in there, quickly buying them, selling them when they went to the front page, and making his money that way, right?
Yeah.
But he got picked up because he was using the blockchain.
Yeah.
Would he have got picked up if he...
Oh, here's a question. Is that classified as insider trading, now?
This is the thing.
It's deregulated.
Exactly. It's not regulated. So
it's just everyone being like,
trading.
No, fuck you asshole.
Like someone exposed, like it wasn't even someone in OpenSea. Somebody else found out.
Yeah.
And told OpenSea, told the chief something officer, being like, hey, I can see this happening. And then OpenSea looked into it. We're like, oh yeah. But you're right. I have no idea. I didn't look into the details. If you could get picked up legally for this, I don't think so.
Yeah, I would have guessed not.
Yeah,
if I had to.
So yeah. Anyways, yeah, it's we talk a lot about Bitcoin, but some interesting aspects of that in that world.
It's a fun world. One of the things I also wanted to talk about, so blockchain and expanding it to 2.0, the podcasting 2.0, I think almost getting close to number one reason why I think it's super cool is the reduction of spam. So with being able to send a micropayment, people can't Boostagram me for fucking bullshit because there is a cost associated with that.
Yeah, which will put off someone just spamming.
Yeah, and so if they're going to do that, then they're going to have to...
What if it's a wealthy spammer?
Well,
I really hate currents. I'm going to send them $1,000 continuously.
I could sort of get behind that, as long as it's individualized hate. We get on Instagram those NFT project or
what was it?
The related to music or something.
Yeah, thank you. Or thank you so much, John, for showing me the way.
Yeah. So those ones where it's obvious. Yeah, just I want a bit of hate in my spam. If you're gonna spam me, hit me with some hate as well. I also wanted to say as well. So just looping back again to talking about us not being teachers, I was saying, I might try and create some videos, showing how to use Breeze and whatnot.
Yep.
I don't think that's going to happen.
Okay.
I have a feeling my workload, my schedule is getting too busy to do sort of side projects, which would be nice, but also there's other people who are doing it and they're doing it better than I'd probably able to do. So I just want to call myself out. So that's definitely a negative boost there. We should set up a negative pool kitty and
you can take money from it.
And hit it. But we've come to the Boostagram time.
That's right, Boostagram time.
So not as busy this week because we didn't have a podcasting 2.0 Dave Jones on like we did before. But there are two that I can read out here.
Cool.
So we have had a lot of people streaming in. So thank you, everyone, for streamed as well. But the Boostagrams, they're super fun. I love them. So we got one from Chad F, and he was saying chapter art also shows up on Apple CarPlay. So we were talking about...
Oh, yes. Okay, cool. Yep.
So, yeah, the problem with us two is neither of us have a phone, an iPhone, to be able to test these things. So he sent that through Podfriend, 1,333
Very nice,
sats. Thank you, my good friend Chad Farrow. I'll say his last name as well.
Farrow.
The other one was... this was a really cool example. I'm going to call it world first way of transmitting information. So there's a Boostagram from Chris482572. And so Chris is the owner of the recently created Sats What She Said podcast. So a little play on words there. And I sent him a Boostagram message. He was sort of just starting up the podcast and I was like, oh yeah, here's some couple of questions for you. How are you going to do it? I was asking him, what type of guests or what type of schedule are you going to do, etc. More just giving him some prompts that he could talk about it in one of his episodes. And so this is what he responded back with. Probably an unnecessary step just for the sake of responding back to you via boost message, but link to longer text. And then he sent me a Google Docs link. And so I was able to click on this. So 300 sats sent using Fountain. Yep. Thank you, good sir. And he sent me this. So I clicked on the Google Docs and it took me to probably about 5 paragraphs that he'd written out in response to my message. So I was like, damn, this is a hugely novel way of being able to send to throw because he could have hit me up on the Mastodon, which is sort of like a Twitter type thing. Sure. And he followed me on there, so I know he's on there. But yeah, that was just a really unique way of being able to send something.
A message.
So
with some value.
And I can confirm, like, it's a clickable link. So if you want to send us something that you think would be cool or funny, do it via Boostagram, and we'll see it and be able to click on it. Once again, like, people start sending like random links to crazy Discord challenge and things like that.
You can send to viruses or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that could get a little bit
so you have to be careful with that.
Caution with it.
I mean, that's the exact same caution you need to use while on
everything
Discord
else.
And via email and
just
things like that.
Have your wits about you.
Yeah.
It's still a very fresh space.
So, but like, this is literally so unique. I doubt it'll be a while till someone catches on that you can do something like that.
I feel like there's going to be one of the world first for that to happen.
Yeah, for sure. So those were our 2 Boostagrams for this week. As I've repeated elsewhere, Meanderings is where we read out the messages that we received during the week. Might be a slight feedback, like a lag, I guess, between you sending it and us being able to read it.
That's right.
Just because I have to do all the editing and whatnot. So anyway, Chad and Chris, thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Very much. Anything else you want to chat about today?
That's all. I think we'll leave it at that.
Okay, let's kick off from here. So the Bitcoin community, my little message to everyone who's listening is, hey, go check out some Bitcoin. You might meet a dude who brings guns into Australia and chucks them away.
I think the one takeaway is, if you go to any of those meetups, you will find interesting people.
Yeah.
You'll be interested.
I've had a tremendous amount of fun. We're going to go to a Cardano, or at least I'll go to the Cardano one coming up soon. So we'll be able to see what another community is like.
That's right.
And be able to report back on that. But I think a good general tip as well is, don't just get involved in the online world. Try and make it physical, because there's a lot of fun and be able to, even though like you're absolutely frothing on them. Those like literally, you should see Juan at these places. He's shaking his head. He's moving around. But even I'm having good fun going out, meeting some new people, and it's a good way to connect and also share the Mere Mortals message while you're out there.
That's
Tell
right.
someone, be like, hey, Mere Mortals, they talk about Bitcoin.
You should be like, oi. Are you sending them boosts?
Yep, show them a Boostagram. I've been doing that at the Bitcoin things.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's cool. My way of showing the 2.0 spirit.
Gotcha.
And I think that's a fun way to do. So also another thing, share some Boostagrams, show some people about a new app. They're pretty damn cool.
That's right.
That's it for today of the Meandering session. Juan, take us out.
All right, folks, that's it. One out.
Current out.